Welcome to the Mediocrity. We're the Mediocritics. I'm Kevin.
I'm Dan.
And so today we are going to be reviewing Mandy, which came out this year. It's directed by Panos Cosmatos. His other well-known filmography is Tombstone and Beyond the Black Rainbow. I have not personally seen either, but those are his well-known films. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you have not seen the movie, go watch it. If you don't plan on seeing the movie, then we're going to give you a brief overview of the movie, and we're going to get into it right after the intro. Mandy takes place in the Pacific Northwest in 1983. The two main characters are Red Miller, played by Nick Cage, and Mandy Bloom, played by Andrea Riseborough. They play this kind of lovey-dovey hippie couple. They're out in the middle of the woods. They have this, log hut shack thing. It's kind of cool. It has lots of glass, but they're clearly just in the middle of the forest. They're not in a town or things like that. And so the story kind of starts rolling when Jeremiah Sand, who's played by Linus Roche, kind of crosses paths with them, and he realizes that Mandy is somebody that he wants for his own. He's a cult leader, so he's a very kind of manipulative and kind of controlling person. So he sees Mandy walking down the road, and it's immediately he wants to have her for himself. And so that's kind of where the movie divulges from there. And so you're kind of placed where Jeremiah raids their house. He actually ends up tying up Nick Cage. Mandy is so to speak, in the movie, described as a free spirit, and so same kind of thing, so she's not really willing to bend to anybody or things like that, which makes Jeremiah very angry. So Jeremiah actually ends up burning her at the stake, or I don't know if you would even call it the stake, but he hangs her from a bag and burns her in front of Nick Cage, and so it kind of sets off the movie from there. That's probably within the first 20-30 minutes, so the rest of the movie is Nick Cage going on this psychedelic kind of trip, chasing after this cult and hunting them down in some nonsensical ways, but we'll get into that. And so that's kind of the general plot of the movie. Why don't you start off by telling us what you thought of this movie?
So to start, I'm going to say this movie, while I really enjoyed it and I liked it, it is not for everybody.
Absolutely.
When I tried to describe this movie to somebody else outside of here, basically the way I put it is, there's two forms of entertainment and art, right? So say you have a museum. By all means, a painting is beautiful. And then say you have a rock band, right? And their music is art, and it's also beautiful. The rock band is playing a song that is also entertaining, right? And then you go to the museum, and yes, it's also beautiful art, but it's not necessarily always entertaining. So that's kind of how I feel about this movie. This movie is more like a museum. It starts off way longer than it takes longer to develop than anticipated based off of the trailer if you've seen it. But it's definitely an art piece. It's a beautiful piece of art to behold. All the cinematography is fantastic. That is easily the highlight of the movie. Sure. The plot is definitely not. It is what it is. It is a simple revenge movie. And they do a really good job of telling that story in interesting ways. But overall, it's just really beautiful to watch. What was your impressions?
So kind of similar to what you saw, and it's kind of more, like you said, it's more like these are kind of movies I look at, and they're kind of more like art projects. A movie's there, and there's a plot, and it's there, but without the visual aspects that they kind of shoot with, or the colors that they use, or styles that they use, the movie would not be nearly as good as it is.
They use a lot of deep reds, a lot of colors, blues, vibrant colors,
neon-y kind of, if you have a red light on, it's filling a whole room. It's a lot of just these ambient colors that are very vibrant. And so it's kind of psychedelic-y, which is a big part of the movie, where, the whole cult, and, many cults do practice off of drugs and being high, and so a lot of the movie is kind of shot that way for a reason. So it's not without purpose. I really enjoyed the film. It's
Didn't sound convincing.
No, I do. It's hard because it's not a it's not a full cohesive message. There are some parts of the movie which I love. Like, I love some of the shots that they do, and honestly, I think the strongest part of the film is the scene where Nick Cage is tied up and Jeremiah comes and he's talking to him, and actually one of the cult girls comes up and Jeremiah has a girl take a gun and shoot it to her head, and it's just a very good scene. I think Linus Roche does a fantastic job in this film. Nick Cage, a lot of people really liked his acting. He doesn't do there's not too much dialogue. It's just kind of like tame, crazy Nick Cage.
Well, for me, it's like they gave you the best parts of Nick Cage.
They did good, crazy Nick Cage.
Which is ironic because he doesn't speak that much in this movie, but that's never... His dialogue has been most of his downfall in a lot of his movies. Yeah. So a lot of his assets are his facial expressions, his outbursts, his raw emotion in certain situations, and they do a really good job of highlighting that.
Just to get into some of the things I really did not like about the movie, again, kind of how you said, it's not a movie for everybody, and it's kind of its flaws is that it's not a very cohesive movie. A lot of what's kind of there is the visual appeal of the movie, but after that, the plot's kind of flimsy. You think, like, there's going to be a really cool plot with Nick Cage rampaging and going after people for killing his wife, but the loss of Mandy clearly affects him, but it's kind of just this, like, I'm just going to go into a rage. Kind of just the fights after that are kind of meh. The choreography is just kind of just like, almost just like Gladiator-esque without as beautiful choreography. It's just kind of like it's happening, and then he kills these people generally pretty easily.
Real, like, anticlimactic. Like, there's one scene where there's, like, a chainsaw scene that you see in the trailer, and like, you see him, like, coming up, and he picks up this chainsaw, and we're like, oh, it's about to go down. And then, like, the other guy brings out this, like, 10-footer, and you're just like, oh, man, it's about to go down. And then it just kind of falls flat. And it's really sad to see because it kind of starts slower than anticipated, and then you're building up to these scenes. Yeah. And while they look good, it falls flat, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's just kind of like fights happen and then they kind of end before you even know it, and you're kind of just like, okay. And so just going from there, like, kind of, and then it kind of just leads up to when Nick Cage's character finally gets to Jeremiah, and it's just kind of like, he just kind of's like, oh, you found me. And at first he's like, please don't kill me. Then he's like,
oh, suck your dick.
Yeah, and then he gets...
That was abrupt. It was really out of place.
And then he gets all in it, like, mad, and then Cage just kills him. Like, it just kind of leaves it, and kind of leaves you wanting more, because he just kind of ends up killing all of them, and then you're just like, okay, well, this is it. You're just left without Mandy, and you killed all of them, but it's just kind of... It just leaves some to be desired. And another just completely random part they just thrown in. There's this big whole scene where he's like crafting this battle axe. Like, he goes and sees this one dude in a trailer, and then he's like, I need to kill things. And he's like, what kind of things? And he's like, I got just what you need. And then literally it just like cuts to him just like smelting his own battle axe, and it's like glistening, like it's got some kind of like crazy like Witcher stone in it or emerald, and it's like the thing's like an orc killer.
Really cool scene.
And it just turns into just kind of like, it's really cool, and you're just like, oh shit, this is cool. It's like something like, oh, it's like he brought that over from like Sorcerer's Apprentice. Like, he just brought that over,
and then he uses it twice,
and he like uses it twice. It's just like an axe, and it's just kind of it's just kind of there, and it's just kind of pointless. It was kind of just like almost to a point where they were just like, let's just make them have a cool battle axe. So the movie, again, it's like, these are kind of things you didn't like about it. Very visually appealing, very cool style, and that really is the forefront of the movie. And so that's kind of the pros and cons that we thought of it. What would you give it for a rating?
For me, I gotta give it 8 mans out of 10 Ds, and the only reason why it gets that rating is because I felt like the cinematography and the score were perfect. If I had to give the story just a rating, it would probably be around a 5. But I have to grade it as a full, complete project, and it's so visually appealing that it boosted the score a little bit. What would you give it?
I'd probably give it 7 Nick out of 10 Cages. Again, it's really gets a boost in the score because of the visuals and just the style of the movie. It's very cool. Again, not for everybody, but if you guys are into really kind of like cool, quirky, stylistic movies, then you'll probably like it and you should go check it out. But overall, that's our review of Mandy. And remember, guys, stay mediocre.
Bye, guys.